both illegal and illegal into this country. NAFTA and CAFTA have not done anything for working class people anywhere it's done, anywhere it's been put into effect. Only the stockholders and the large corporations gain by this, not American workers or the workers in any other country. I want to know how you intend to vote on this next week.
I agree with half of what you say. I'm gonna tell you. I think that NAFTA and CAFTA did not reflect the interests of American workers, but reflected the interests of the stockholders on Wall Street, because they did not contain the sorts of labor provisions and environmental provisions that should have been embedded and should have been enforceable in those agreements. That's why I voted against CAFTA. I remember sitting in the White House and saying, you've got to show me that this administration is serious about getting worker provisions in there and environmental provisions embedded into these agreements, and that you are dealing with the losers in trade, because the burdens and benefits of globalization have not been spread evenly. You've got the stock market sky high, corporate profits going up, but those workers who get laid off as a consequence of displacement, there's some sort of weak retraining program that trains people for jobs that don't exist in communities all across the country. So I'm on record as having voted against CAFTA. I wasn't in Congress at the time that NAFTA came up. Now, Peru, the Peruvian agreement, contains the very labor agreements that labor and our allies have been asking for. I know you're shaking your head. But what I'm saying is that the same provisions that we fought for and that the AFL-CIO and other labor organizations had been asking for and that weren't contained in NAFTA, they are in this agreement. And I understand, and maybe we can have a discussion after this, but I have talked to the folks who negotiated this. I've read the agreement, and it contains those agreements. Now, South Korea, the South Korean trade agreement, I will vote against, because it did not do what it needed to do in terms of making sure that U.S. automakers could sell cars into Korea in the same way that Koreans are able to sell cars into the United States. So it was not fair. But what I'm not willing to do is to say, on a blanket basis, we're not going to do trade agreements. I think that would be a mistake. We can't draw a moat around the United States economy. If we do that, then China is still trading. India is still going to be trading. They're still going to be engaging in this global economy, and the notion that we can isolate ourselves from it, I believe, is mistaken. Last point I want to make, because I haven't gotten to all the truth that you spoke. You did speak an important truth about Mexico and the consequences of NAFTA, in that farmers were displaced there. They didn't benefit in the same way that many workers here didn't benefit, and that has contributed to the problems with immigration, as farmers are being forced off the land and they urbanize and then ultimately try to make their way up to the United States. And one of the things that we do have to make certain of is that we are working with Mexico to provide decent jobs and opportunity to their workers there. And if we are not having those conversations with Mexico, and if there's growing inequality in Mexico as there's growing inequality here, then we're not going to be able to solve the immigration crisis. So I agree with you on that. All right? All right. I'll get one of these young people here. Go ahead.
I am from Londonderry Middle School, and my question is, do you believe that New Hampshire should be the first state in the nation to vote in the primary, and when will you be visiting Londonderry Middle School?
Well, I think I got set up here. I am strongly committed to New Hampshire being the first in the nation primary. That's why I'm campaigning here. I think it's a great tradition. It gives the entire country the opportunity to watch candidates interact with voters. Voters have a chance to lift the hood and kick the tires. And so I've signed a pledge that I'm going to participate in Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, those 4 early states that give the entire country a chance to see a very thoughtful electorate make up their minds about who should lead America into the future. And I'll try to come to your school. We'll have to work out. I'll have my people talk to your people. All right. Young lady back there with the notebook. Why don't you get a mic? You don't you don't have this guy's voice right here, which is a great voice.
What do you think is necessary to change about our education system to keep up with the ever-changing and technologically advancing world that we live in today?
Well, you know, I answered some of that question. So I just want to repeat what I think has to happen. We've got to have a really strong early childhood education program, not just pre-K, but also 0 to 3, where all of the science indicates that's when children learn the most. And we've got to identify children who are at risk and work with their parents to make sure that they are helping to get prepared for school. We have to improve how we pay teachers and how we provide training and support for teachers. We've got to change No Child Left Behind. First of all, you can't leave the money behind from No Child Left Behind. But we also have to change the assessment so that you don't just have one high-stakes standardized test that everybody is focused on, and that means no art, no music, no history, all the things that encourage creativity among students. So those are all areas, just to reiterate what I said. One last point I'll make about education, though, and I say this everywhere I go, it is important to recognize that parents have to be partners in the education process. And, you know, too many of our parents, and listen, I've been guilty of this sometimes, you know, too much TV in the house, too many video games in the house. Turn off those TV sets, put the video games away, make sure kids are doing homework, make sure you're talking to your parents. All those things have to be part and parcel of a broader effort to achieve excellence in our schools. Okay. Right over. There's a mic coming right next to you.
I'm thinking that the work on global warming is past time and we need to hit it hard. At the same time, I'm aware that there are lots of lobbies that are going to be out there touting solutions that won't do that much good. And I think we need to have systems analysts that can look at the economics and the oil used in a process end to end. And are you in favor of creating some kind of an agency that can help us make more enlightened choices?
Well, I don't think we need a new agency. We just need the agencies that are already there to do their job. So, you know, what we need is the Environmental Protection Agency to be working with other agencies in the federal government. And one component of my proposal is the federal government should be leading on the whole issue of climate change by retrofitting their buildings to make them energy efficient, by making their cars that they purchase for the federal fleets more fuel efficient. They are the biggest purchaser and the biggest user of energy. And so they can establish